All right, what's going on today, YouTube? Welcome back to your favorite cyclist YouTube channel. This week, we're talking about torque specs and why they're important on your bike. But before we get into today's video, if you're new to my channel, make sure you head down below, hit that subscribe button for me. If you already are subscribed, make sure you hit that bell icon right next to that. That way you get notified every time I upload. That way you don't miss any of this awesome cycling content on this channel. So like I said, today we're talking about torque specs, and I can already hear some of you going, we don't want to hear about torque specs. We want to see cool tools and cool bikes. Well, that's okay. We're talking about cool tool and torque specs at the same time. So torque specs, kind of important. Torque is pretty much the amount of tightening force you put onto a bolt. Pretty simple. Pretty much what torque spec is. Different parts on your bike can have different torque specs on them. For bikes, a lot of times they're labeled in Newton meters is what bikes are going to be labeled in. So I'll be real. Most of my life riding bikes and working on bikes, it's been feels tight enough. Call that good. It's not going to move. It's tight enough. Good. And there really wasn't much going towards the torque spec being done. It was pretty much just tightening it till it felt like it was tight. That works for a decent little while until you start dealing with like carbon stuff and expensive parts. Then it really starts to be something you really need to pay attention to. Because carbon tends to give, and when carbon gives, it tends to crack and break, and then you have to spend a whole bunch of money on an expensive bike part. And that's why behind me we have the Poseidon Redwood here. Recently, about 6 months ago, we installed this carbon State Monster Gravel fork on here. This is a full carbon fork, carbon all the way down, carbon steerer as well. And that's where I went, okay, I kind of need to think about torque specs there. Same thing with the Superfly. We installed carbon handlebars on there. Kind of need to work on torque specs on that. As well as my daughter racing BMX bikes. If you want to get a lighter bike and lighter components on your bike, you're going carbon. So kind of need to work on torquing and torque specs down to that. So one of the things I've always struggled with is I have a bunch of tools and I have a bunch of like Allen wrenches. I even have a Park toolkit that's in a 3/8 ratchet size. So I need a 3/8 ratchet for it. The problem I always run into is with bikes, your torque specs are normally pretty low, maybe around 5 Newton meters or so. While you can find like little specific tools that only torque to certain specifications and stuff like that, I want something that's multi-purpose, but I want something that gets down to the torque specs that a bike will get down to. And it's very hard to find a 3/8 torque wrench that gets down to those readings. Remember, it's stuck with a 1/4 inch, they gotta use an adapter, which then messes with the torque a little bit, and then you can finally torque it down. So kind of tricky there. Also, I've used torque wrenches that are essentially the click type that are really cheap, really affordable, and you know, you can kind of you kind of have to read them carefully. You gotta know what you're doing a little bit to use those torque wrenches. So when a company reached out to me named SUZUME, that's right, I know Japanese still, I can actually read that and sound it out myself. When they reached out to me and said, hey, we have some digital torque wrenches we want you to test out. And I looked at them and they had a 3/8 version that went down into the range of bicycle torque ratings. I said, yes, let me give that a shot, because digital torque wrenches are so much easier, so simple that anybody could do it. Makes it so easy. So they sent me out their digital torque wrench here, and it's pretty cool. Comes in a nice case all right here for you. Crack this guy open. I'll show you kind of what you got in here. Comes with everything you need to set this thing up. Torque wrench in here has a screwdriver and the batteries you need to put the batteries in. That's literally what this screwdriver is for. It's to put the batteries in the torque wrench. This is a decent screwdriver too. Comes with that. Comes with a extension as well as an adapter to go down to a 1/4 inch if you need the adapter. Like I said, kind of cool. It comes with all that stuff. And then of course your instructions down below. So go ahead, we'll kind of put this box off to the side. So what makes, it's a digital torque wrench. What does that mean? What does that mean? So let me go ahead. I'm going to pull out a regular, the click type ones, and I'll show you the digital one and show you kind of what makes them different. All right, so here's your two versions here. So this is your kind of basic click type, and then the nice digital torque wrench here. So the click type, like I said, this is the 1/4 inch version. This is what I've been using for my bike fasteners because this actually gets to the torque specs that the bikes need, really low torque specs. So with the click type, essentially down here at the bottom, you have everything engraved on here. That pretty much tells you what it is in inch pounds and then in kilogram centimeters right here. Kind of the only two specs you have. So you're kind of limited to those. So you got to do some conversions to get Newton meters for bike stuff. So from there, we're pretty much going to twist this guy up until it gets to the number you want. Let's just say like 20 inch pounds is what we're going to go for. Then you tighten this guy on the bottom. That holds it in place. So it's not going to change at all. Then you can put your thing on there, and as you turn this, as you get to that torque spec, it clicks, is what it does. So that's pretty simple how that works. Now, one of the things that always kills people is you got to undo this. You have to unscrew this guy, unscrew the torque wrench all the way. That way doesn't have a whole much pressure on it, and you're not causing undue wear, making it not calibrated, that kind of stuff. Does it work? Yeah, it works. It's kind of tougher it's just a little trickier to deal with. You kind of got to know what you're doing there. Versus our nice digital guy here. So the digital guy, a little bit different. Obviously, there's no twist thing on the bottom. So what we go ahead and do, we go ahead and turn this guy on. All right, so you can see on the screen right there, that's actually where we're going to set our readings. So we can do inch pounds, we can do foot pounds, we can do kilogram per centimeters, we can do Newton meters, which is what bikes are going to use right there. And it goes right back into inch pounds, foot pounds, all the way around. And now this guy, like I said, it goes down to bike range of specs here. So you can go all the way down to 3 Newton meters, all the way up to 60 Newton meters. A little much for what you see on a bike, but you can go all the way up to there, and you can do all the way down to 3 Newton meters, which is getting there. Like I said, a lot of stem clamp bolts, 5 Newton meters is what you're looking at there. Pretty cool that it does that. And then, of course, you can loosen, tighten it, whatever you need to do on here, but it's really super simple to use. You can scroll through the different modes real quick. It'll give you conversions right off the bat. Let's say you want 3 Newton meters, and you're kind of like, what is that in inch pounds? Oh, it's 26.55, or 2.21 foot pounds, or 30.58 kilogram per centimeters. Kind of cool. It has all that information in there. Now, what really makes this thing cool, we'll show you in just a second as we go and we'll check my torque ratings. We'll check my torque specs, see if we're even close to what they should be, and we'll kind of go from there. But really, really nice. Just because it's all incorporated here, it's all on a little screen. You just push the buttons, put in exactly what you want it to be. So for instance, we're going to go for some of our stem clamp bolts. So that's about 5 Newton meters what we're going for. So we're going to set it to 5 Newton meters. There we go. We're all set to go for our stem bolts. And if we're to turn it off, turn it back on, it's still going to say 5 Newton meters, but you don't have to reset it or anything. It does that by itself. Really, really cool. So let's go ahead and we'll throw a socket with a 5mm Allen head on here, and we'll go ahead and check torque specs on the stem on the Redwood and see if we're even close. See what kind of ratings we're looking at. I'm really curious how that is right now. All right, so we're going to go for this bolt here first. 5 Newton meters, the 4mm bolt. So we got it set 5 Newton meters right there. We got this set to tighten. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and put this guy on here, and what you're going to notice right here, you're going to see some LEDs pop up. So I'm going to turn that screen on. So as we go ahead and we start to pull this, you'll see the numbers start to change there. So that's telling me how much torque I'm currently putting on. So it actually reads it as you're currently doing it. So if you need to get like a really specific, or you want to see how much pressure that is, it tells you right there. So, and then as we get closer, you'll see the little green LEDs come on. So they're saying you're close, 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 close. And then when it hits red, you're where you need to be. Perfect. Just right in the ballpark. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead. We're going to loosen this guy up. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and tighten this guy up from scratch. So go ahead, cut a couple turns on here, and you can see the numbers start to change there. Now we've got some torque on it. And then we're going to pull a little bit. See, we're at 4. Getting close. There we go. 5 Newton meters right there. Easy as that. Super simple. And if we go just check the other side, as you can tell, it's just super simple. Carbon steer tube. Don't really want to crack that or anything like that. It's pretty important to have your torque specs down pretty solid on there. Go ahead and check a couple check a couple stem bolts here. That kind of applies to whatever you're working on, whether it's your seat post tube. Let's see, let's go ahead and check here. This one, we got 8 Newton meters on our seat post clamp. There we go, and we're going to go ahead right on here, just like we did before, and we're going to go ahead and scroll up all the way to 8 Newton meters. Yeah, 8 Newton meters, ready to go. They're going on there. See kind of what we're looking at. Oh, we were a little loose. There we go. We were actually a little loose on that. Got that to 8 Newton meters, just like it should be. Nice and super tight. So pretty important because that's a carbon seat post on there. Pretty important to have that. So let's go check. We'll check one more down here. We'll go down to the rear derailleur. All right, it's down here at the bottom, down here at the rear derailleur. Got a spec right there on there. Got 8 to 10 Newton meters. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to put that smack in the middle. We're going to go 9. We're going to start at 9 Newton meters. All set to go. Should be a 5 millimeter, just like that one is. Go ahead and see what. Ooh, that guy's pretty tight. Okay, we might have that a hair tight. So let's go ahead, kind of loosen this guy. And it does do backwards too. So you can actually torque this thing backwards if you need to do reverse threads. There we go. Okay, so got that loose. So 8 to 10. We're going to go for 10. There's 8, 9. And there we go. Got that torqued. And that's pretty important because that rotates on that shaft. So if it's too tight, might not be as accurate. Might not shift as well. Might not be able to rotate back out of the way for our larger cassette cogs back here. Kind of neat. That's there. So for me, especially as I get more expensive bike parts and fancier bike parts, carbon bike parts, all that kind of stuff, getting the proper torque spec on them is going to be more important. It's going to make everything move smoothly, not crush anything. Make sure everything's functioning as it should be on my bike. Like I said, I've been that guy that goes, it's tight enough, cool, done, and don't torque anything. It's just time for me to move on from that, be a little bit more careful with my parts, especially, like I said, more expensive parts, nicer bikes, need to be a little bit more careful with what I'm doing. So for me, this is going to make a big difference. Super nice, super easy to have. 3/8 works with all the attachments I have that are for bike specific stuff. I even have a park tool. One of the few park tool things I own. This works with everything. Works. I can, like I showed you, you can change the torque spec on here. Super simple. And not only that, it can work for other things as well. If you need to use it for something other than your bike, it's gonna work for that too. But for bike repair, this thing's really nice to have. So I know some of you are gonna be like, well, what kind of accuracy does this thing have? I mean, I've never heard of SUZUME, never heard of them. So what kind of accuracy does this thing even have? So they do send you the certificate of calibration here. So they calibrate, make sure all these are calibrated in spec before they send them off. So this guy here has the date of issue. The calibration was done back in December of 2024. Has the serial number for the device, which is, that's a good quote right there. Serial numbers right on the right engraved onto the actual metal there. So there's a serial number on there, which does match. Perfect. Has it on there. They are aimed for tolerance on clockwise is plus minus 2%. Counterclockwise is plus minus 3%. Pretty decent, honestly. So let's see here. Even gives you the conditions of what was tested in, the temperature it was in, all the stuff, what the equipment was used as, all that kind of things. So they give you all your specs down here at the bottom. So they tested at 3 torque levels is pretty much what they do. So tested at 8.8 foot-pounds, 26.5, and 44.25. No idea how they got those numbers, but that's what they test them at there. And then it gives you what the reading actually turned out to be when this was set to that measurement and what it actually came out to be. And especially the low torque ratings, we're looking at 0.07%. That's really good. That means it's pretty much dead on. Like in this case, it was set for 8.85, came out to 8.84 foot-pounds. So really, really precise on the low stuff. Honestly, the mid-range, like 26.55, you get 1.78. So that's kind of your highest range there. And then once you get to the high end of this torque wrench, 44.25 foot-pounds, back to a 0.62% deviation. So it really does really well. It's impressive they include this with it. Stamped here, everything is ready to go, all reference. Yeah, really nice. They make a really solid product to send this, to include this with it. I'll be honest, if you're getting a cheap torque wrench, you're not getting this. I'll just say that. So in my opinion, if you're looking for a torque wrench to keep everything on your bike, properly torqued, everything on your bike, from cranksets to derailleurs to disc rotors to seat post clamps, stem bolts, whatever you got. If you're looking for something that can do it all and just work really nice and simple for you, super simple. You can set this thing to whatever you want it to be, into the 100th place in decimals. You can set this to whatever you want it to be. SUZUME makes a really nice torque wrench. It's really important to keep stuff torqued, and why not do it with something that you actually like and works really well? So big thanks to SUZUME for sending me out a torque wrench and letting me show you guys a cool product, show you guys how important it is to torque down the bolts on your bike, the hardware on your bike. Make sure you're not over torquing it, not damaging your bikes and your expensive components on there. If you guys are interested in checking one out for yourselves, there's going to be a link in the description down below. Check them out. They also offer a 1/4 inch, a higher rating 3/8, and a 1/2 inch, all in the same torque wrench. Really nice quality. I'm looking forward to having this on my work stand, ready to go whenever I need to torque down some bolts. If you guys enjoyed the video, or at least found it entertaining, give this video a big thumbs up. Appreciate the support. Any comments or questions, let me know down in the comment section below. Love talking to you guys. Love answering questions you guys have. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching today.